Welcome back, Free Spirits. Today's conversation is all about forgiveness, not as something we owe others, but as something we give ourselves. My guest is Shannon Curtis, founder of Angel Goddess Healing and author of No More Monsters Under the Bed. Shannon helps people heal trauma, release addiction, and reconnect with who they truly are. Her story includes childhood sexual trauma, addiction, miscarriages, divorce, spiritual awakening, and the radical choice to rebuild her life from authenticity first. This is a conversation about turning pain into purpose and choosing who you are before choosing anything else. Shannon, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me on your show today, and just very grateful to be here.
I'm so grateful for you too. And I want to just dive right in. And, we were just talking before the show that we both like to bring up topics that are a bit taboo, that people don't typically talk about because of the importance of normalizing things, even when they're not great experiences. So I want to start at the beginning. You experienced sexual trauma at a very young age, but you didn't remember or disclose it until much later. Before you had words for it, how did that trauma show up in your life?
So the trauma was always a part of me. I was 4 when it happened, and I can very clearly now go back and see how that trauma was always a part of me, and how by the time I was 11 and I started my menstrual cycle, by a year later, I'm in severe pain. By a couple years later, I'm going to a gynecologist. I'm having surgery for endometriosis, a bladder disease. And so that really started my things of seeing that my body was always responding to it and holding on to that trauma. Had the miscarriages, the infertility, had to have a hysterectomy, menopause at 35, naturally didn't even know it. All those things my body was always telling me. There's always signs. That's what I tell everyone. There's always signs. It's just a matter of if we're listening to them right there, but the body truly does know. And so for me, it was in a lot of my female health.
I appreciate what you're saying is that your body was telling you, and because we are not always taught to tune into our body and listen, we are taught to refer to doctors. Well, the doctor said this, therefore it must be true, or to follow what our family or society tells us, and we often dismiss what we really know deep down to be our own truth, but we say, no, that can't be right. And it seems to be something that I've seen from so many guests on our show. Do you feel like that was your experience too?
Absolutely. I work with a lot of clients that have been victims of that, or their children, and there's always signs. Tummy aches are a big one for children. And it's really important when we talk about children because they don't know how to express some of this. And you can imagine them having the trauma already and then trying to describe what's going on in their body. And so it gets lost in translation. So bedwetting, tummy pains, things like that. Those are big things. The tummy, that's where we hold a lot of our stuff. And so it's just fine tuning all our skills and teaching our children and ourselves how to understand our bodies, because our bodies are always telling us things.
I love that. And I think especially with children, as you said, things get lost in translation. Children don't always know how to express it in a way that adults can receive it, and especially when it comes to, you mentioned bedwetting or tummy aches, or even what we might call acting out or behavior problems are really just the kids' way of sending messages to us. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Like, look at me, look at me. They're trying to tell you something. And that's what happens with trauma. Trauma is always screaming out to be looked at. And I tell people, my clients, in order to make something disappear, you literally have to look at it. You have to do the opposite. You actually have to look at it and then it goes away. And so that's what trauma is. Once you start looking at your body and a lot of the pain and aches and things and cancers and diseases, it's literally a dis-ease in your body. It's your body saying something's off. And so if we can just be curious and talk about these uncomfortable things, like you said, I think we can start getting some answers.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Now, you've also talked about addiction to pain medication and reaching out for help only to feel unheard. What was that moment like, and how did it change the way that you saw the system that's supposed to be supporting you?
I think the shame is such a big one, that even just that word addiction still can kind of, I don't let it hold any power over me. But if someone, I've had people try to use that against me, and I'm just like, it was a beautiful thing. It actually helped me just navigate life when I wasn't able to without it because of all the traumas. And so that's what happens is the pain medicine literally did what it was supposed to. It numbed the pain. I wasn't ready to deal with it yet. I didn't have the proper tools. And so that's what I always tell people. I allowed myself to have grace. And so anyone struggling with addiction right now, allow yourself to have some grace, because maybe you just don't have the proper tools. And so you need that right now. And then once you're ready to have that, you can let that go. Mine literally, it's been 8 years, 9 years. I don't even know. And it's just because it doesn't matter to me. It's gone because it no longer serves me, because I have the tools to feel the pain. I don't need to numb the pain. Now I have the tools to know how to walk through it. And so now that's my livelihood, is to teach other people how to walk through the pain and truly, truly release what you're addicted to, because you are not addicted to the pain medicine. You're not addicted to the alcohol. You are addicted to the numbing, what you're getting out of it. And you're getting something out of it because you keep going back to it. So let's replace it with something better.
I think that's such an important point. I don't want to gloss over this, because what you're saying is you're not addicted to that, to the medication itself. You just don't want the pain. Right? And what you're saying is so significant too. Stopping that addiction led you, or I probably, the tools came first, and then you were able to get sober, stop whatever you were using, and actually deal with the pain, which you just said, that the trauma goes away once you can look at it and see it. So being able to see that and probably say a lot of things out loud that you never felt you could before actually led you to move past it. Is that right?
Yeah, so that's what you have to move through it. You have to feel it to move through it. And that's the thing, the forgiveness method I came up with was literally doing that, because what happens is we're so afraid to feel the pain because we think we're going to get stuck in it, because we haven't been taught how to move through it. So why would you want to go through something? Just like, of course, I'm going to take pain medicine if it numbs my pain, because I don't want to feel the pain. So why would I go through that if I don't know and trust that I'm going to move through it? And so that's what I really help people with, is you have to feel it to move through it, but it doesn't have to be suffering. That's the other thing. We think healing is suffering. No, no, no. Healing can be kind and gentle and loving. And what I found is how to really move past my trauma was just to learn to love myself, to say I was worthy of it. Those were their bad behaviors. That little 4-year-old girl that got abused, that was not her fault. So that's what forgiving is. That's what I came up with. Forgiving is forgiving that pain back to the abuser. And forgetting is forgetting your power back. And so that's what I did. In the moment of forgiving my abuser, I got my power back. And that is the true meaning of forgiveness, in my opinion, is for yourself, is to give it to them and to get your power back.
I love that. You've also said that getting sober opened the door to your spiritual gifts too. And I'm curious how all of that experience kind of tied in to everything else that you were going through at this time, and how your intuition and spiritual awareness began to come online.
Absolutely. So I've always been very intuitive. I would say I was always a sensitive child, feeling things, empath, but really, again, numbing all my gifts, because I was really numbing my intuition. My 4-year-old self kept that secret for a long, long, long time, almost 40 years. And so with that, numbed my intuition. So once I released that and I did a big spiritual journey, literally my intuition just skyrocketed. And now I do mediumship work and I do intuitive coaching. And there's things that I can pass on to people that I know how I know it. It's not from me, but the information that downloads on me is because I'm a clear channel. And that's what I tell people with, the only reason why I am able to do it versus someone else, I've just really done a lot. Every day I do work. That is the other thing. Every day I'm checking in with myself, making sure I'm aligned. And once I am, I get all the messages because it's a clear channel. It's not about me. It is literally of the highest good. So when you tap into the spiritual world, that's what it's about, is you have to do the ego work. And it's not about what I think. It's literally messages that get received that I just pass on. And that's all my job is just to pass on what I feel and know in my gut. And it's been a beautiful gift of watching it unfold. And sometimes I'm like, I can't believe, I get to do this for a living. but really it was always knowing it was there. I just had to do that healing to fully let my gifts come out.
I can so appreciate that too. I feel like I can see how it would be difficult to really tap into that part of you while hiding, being ashamed of trauma that happened to you, and that really need to deal with that, to free up that space and energy into you, to allow that intuition to come to you. That makes total sense.
Yes, because that's why the abuse happens. It's dark and it's put on the light. And our light is the intuition, is source, is God, is love. And so that's what happens, especially when it's done children at young age. You get cloaked in that darkness thinking you're the dark, you're the bad, you're the trauma, you're the pain. And so of course you're not going to feel as tapped in or as close to God and spirit as you possibly could, because you're literally holding on to someone else's pain. And so once I really let that go and saw I am a child of God and I am pure and I am good and I am not my choices in life, I am not my addiction, I'm not my divorce, all those things, then I could truly see the gift of it.
It's beautiful. Now, I think it was around 9 years ago, you mentioned that you went through this profound spiritual awakening, but that was including working with plant medicine in Mexico. And I'm curious about this experience. How did it deepen your healing in ways that nothing else had before?
So actually 9 years ago is when I went to treatment, and it's a beautiful place called the Meadows in Arizona, Wickenburg, and they deal with trauma. And I was there for 45 days. That's where I really dealt with my pain medicine addiction. And so what happened was I really dug into what happened to me when I was 4, because I remember being taken by somebody, but I don't remember the rest of the day. There's bits and pieces. And so I worked with the therapist and we really couldn't. He said, your body's just not ready to remember it. So I was like, okay. And so about a year and a half ago, March will be 2 years, I went to Mexico. My fiance, he's a vet and struggled with PTSD, and he has found his way to this beautiful place called Ambio Life Sciences, and they're doing wonderful things for vets and all these other things. They're figuring out this medicine, and it's a plant medicine from Africa. It's a tree shrub called iboga. And so they take that, and it's ibogaine, and you ingest it, and it's a beautiful spiritual experience. But I had a full memory of what happened to me, and I was shown clear as day what happened. And so in that moment, I got to process it, like almost in your higher self. So I was observing it. So I wasn't the 4-year-old girl. I was observing what happened, and I saw in the car, and I saw the guy, and I saw exactly, but I wasn't as emotionally attached. And so it helped me process the trauma without that. So I had moments of feeling the pain and the anger, but I also felt relief, because I was like, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. My soul knew it. And so I also had that. And then the sadness for that. I went through every emotion, but ultimately, God was next to me. And he said, do you want to see it? And I said, yes. And so I found out what happened. I remembered. And then I was looking at the perpetrator. And I looked down and I had all this red knotted, I could say like wire mesh kind of around my belly, uterus area. And I looked down and I looked at God. I said, oh God, this is bad. It was anger. And I was like, this is not mine. And so I literally handed it to the perpetrator. But in that moment, I'm still looking at him. And then here's God, the essence of God. And I'm like, he's of the same light as me. Ultimately, take the human side out of it. The soul energy is the same, of the same light. And so I was like, how could I hate somebody? And so in that moment, I forgave. And once I forgave that person, saying thank you, it was done for me, not to me, because it has made me who I am. It has made me the strong woman. It has made me the strong mom that I am now. And so I saw the gifts in it. I said, if I want to experience forgiveness, the beauty of forgiveness, somebody had to do something to me. That is the black and white. You have to have the good with the bad. So I understood it on a higher level. And so it just changed my whole life. And that was almost 2 years ago. That's when I came back and had all of my transformation and, write my books and my forgiveness method. But it was all based on, if people truly understood what forgiveness was, they would be so willing to do it, because it is the most beautiful gift that I've ever given to myself, not that person, to myself. And that was what I got out of it, was it was all done for me, not to me.
Wow, that's pretty profound. And I know that forgiveness is at the core of your work. But before we talk about forgiving others, how did you learn to forgive yourself?
I think that is so important because that's what I say. How are you willing to forgive someone else if you can't even with yourself? It goes back to knowing it's that worth. I do tons of inner child work with my clients and believe in it. And that's where when I went to the Meadows, that's what they do. It's based off of Pia Medley and the inner child work. And so that changed my life. And if I want to know about someone how to help, let me just ask them about their childhood and I will know everything because our childhood shapes who we are. So it's so important to go back to that inner child and tell that little child, you're worthy. Because what happens is, as adults, we're trying to heal the adult now. It's not the adult that's acting out. We're acting in our little younger wounded child. So you have to go all the way back to that little child and say, it's okay, it wasn't your fault. That's how I forgave myself, was going back to the little girl, because Shannon's sitting here now. I know that. But she didn't know that. She was terrified going with some man that said, I have to go with him. That's not my dad. So it was a lot of doing that kind of work of having compassion. And I think a lot of people have a hard time giving compassion for themselves. But if they can go back to that little child, they can find compassion for the little child in them.
I love that. I especially appreciate that you're describing forgiveness as something that happens for you and not the other person.
Yeah.
And when you forgave your perpetrator, what did that feel like in your body and in your life afterward?
Yes, and so it's beautiful because I got to experience in there, but now I've got to experience in like the 3D, the human side. I have everyone in my life, and I've had some big stuff that I can't necessarily talk about that has gone on in my life. And I can tell you, I have forgiven every single person, because what happens is when that anger comes up and that stuff, it's hurting me. It's hurting me. And so I'm like, you're not going to take my peace away. And that's what I found, is that's why forgiving is so important, because it's robbing me of my own peace. And it can only go away if I give it to them. That's that thing of, that's what you get back is your power. That's your peace, saying you're not going to own me. You're not going to do that. And so it's so important to realize that forgiveness, we've been taught wrong. And we've been told we have to do it because the Bible tells us so. That is not why I do it. It's because of the way it makes me feel. It's not because I have to do it. It's because I want to do it. It has nothing to do with the other person. It has everything to do with me, and knowing that no one can take my power away and my peace.
I love that. It's not like you said, no one can take your power away. It's almost like you're acknowledging you've had it all along.
Yes.
And you just kind of need to wake up that side or remember that you had it, but it's always been with you. It's just kind of put in the box, stuffed up in the attic for a little while.
Yes, and it's going back to that little girl telling that little 4-year-old self that it's okay. I imagine you were too scared to say, I'm not going with you, when someone said, come with me. That
Right.
was my power, my voice. I had my voice. I just didn't use it. There's a big difference of not having it and not being able to use it, and having it and just not using it. So that's what that like forgiveness of self is, knowing that I always had the power, always had my voice. I just didn't use it. I didn't use it with him, and I didn't use it when my parents asked me if something happened and I said no. Okay,
Right.
that's what it was. He didn't take my power. I just chose not to use it. And now I found it, and no one's ever going to take my voice away, because that is ultimately my truth. I found that is my power, is in my voice and my truth.
Yeah. And I want to go back to something you said earlier. You were talking about inner child work, and that it's something you emphasize deeply. Why is it so important for adults to return to their childhood experiences if they want real healing?
I think children are the answer. I think there's a reason why we say Jesus loved the little children, because it's the innocence of the children we forget. This is why we hurt each other. This is why we abuse each other, because we're trying to be these adults when we're running around acting like little kids, and we're not wounded little kids because we can't handle it. And so inner child work is so important, to go back and reparent yourself, regrow up that, because there's not one person that hasn't had some kind of trauma happen in their childhood. And it doesn't mean have to be big T's, is what they call it. It can be little T's. It can be little things. And you start to get these false narratives about yourself, that you're not worthy, you're not good, you don't deserve this. So of course, as we grow up as adults, we play that narrative out, and then we end up not with the job, with the abusive partner, all these things. So if you go back to the wound, that's why I say you always literally have to go back to the core of the wound. And a lot of times it's in the childhood. It's something that our programming has taught us that are like women, we have to be this way, we have to be that way, we can't talk, we can't be aggressive. Why would I want to say no to an abuser if I'm kind of already programmed to be that quiet little girl? And so that's that kind of stuff. So of course, when I was married for 15 years and didn't feel like I had my voice, it wasn't because of my adulthood, it was because of my childhood. And so that's what happens is there's always a correlation. Always is what I find is there's a correlation of where you are now and what happened in your childhood.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, you also wrote a book. I want to touch on that. You wrote No More Monsters Under the Bed as a children's book, which is rooted in healing. What inspired you to bring such a heavy truth into such a gentle form?
I think because we need the inner childhood book, it's the No More Monsters Under the Bed, shining your light on the dark. And so that's what it is literally shining your light on the dark parts of your life. And I think that we need to start with children, but it also is beautiful because it's inner child, so it's for the adult too. And so it's spiritual. It has 7 spiritual animals, but it's a little girl who's afraid of the dark because a monster came in her room and took her light away. And so she goes to sleep and a special angel comes to her and they really just recaptivate the light that was lost. And she goes and collects it all and realizes that it was just the little shattered pieces of her soul. And then it's never too late to recollect that power. And once she did that, she goes on this beautiful journey that meets 7 animals. And they're all like the cardinal. They're all very special meanings to me in my life, but they each come with a special message. And so there's 7 books after that with each animal. And they're the chakras. And so they're the 7 chakras. And they don't say it in there, but it's that thing in my forgiveness method is 7 steps with the 7 chakras. And it's all just working that up and feeling like getting back into your body, the mind, body, and soul, and how they're all tied together. And so it's a beautiful story about a girl who found that her monster was her greatest teacher of unconditional love. And so we can all learn from that. We can all find some kind of monster that's been hiding and be brave enough to find that, shine that light on it, and see that it's actually there as a teacher.
That's so beautiful. And today, I love this. You are literally being paid to be yourself and to guide others through healing. What would you say to someone listening who feels terrified to live authentically because of what others might think?
You're giving your power to those others. That is exactly what it is. If you're terrified what others are thinking, you're living your life in terror. So it's kind of hearing that I don't live my life in terror. I have no fear. I have moments, but knowing at the end of the day, I saw a thing like 10 years. The only thing that's guaranteed 10 years from now is that I'm alive. I don't know about my daughter, I don't know my fiance, I don't know my family. There is no guarantee except for me. So I'm going to put it all on me, meaning that at the end of the day, just trusting being authentic to you, because those people that you're worried about, I guarantee you they're not spending that much time thinking about you. That's just not what we do. That's where our egos come in. We make it about us. And so it's just remembering that power you're giving is wasting your own power. Life is so short. Do what you want to do, because I am a living testimony of I burnt it all down and walked away from a 15-year marriage and left everything and couldn't even have a credit card in my name. And now 2.5, 3 years later, I own a home, I have a business. But the biggest thing is I have a livelihood that is made off of just being me. I get to be paid just to be me. And so how many people can say that? What are you missing out on? So many opportunities. So just be authentic and then watch the universe do its magic, because I think that we start it different. We worry about the job, to pay the house, to pay this. I did the opposite. I literally did the opposite. I said, what do I want to do? Who am I? Who's Shannon? Who does she want to stand for? And all this stuff came up. And then naturally that the business and the clients and the retreats and all the healing came. But I did it opposite. I was like, I'm not going to go get the job just to pay for the house. I'm going to start with me first. And then the house is going to come and the business, and it all just unfolded beautifully. And then I just get to make a living off of being me.
So amazing. So amazing. I wish that for everyone on the whole planet.
I do
It's
too.
incredible.
I truly do.
And as we wind down here, I've got one more question for you, Shannon. If someone listening feels like healing is just too big, too overwhelming, or even too late, what truth do you want them to walk away with today?
I just want to say it's never too late. I am literally living testimony that it's never too late. But if it gets overwhelming, just start small. And if I can offer one piece of advice, start with gratitude. every day. Find something you're grateful for, and it will literally shift your brain into starting to feel the good stuff and looking for the good. And so start building your trust in yourself that you can find the good. And once you start doing that, maybe the healing journey won't look so intimidating.
Beautiful. Shannon, thank you so much for bringing your wisdom today and your vulnerability and your lived truth into this space. Thank you for trusting us with the parts of your story that so many people are still afraid to name. And I really appreciate the way that you speak about forgiveness, authenticity, and healing, because it does have the power to help people feel less alone and more hopeful about what's possible for their own lives. I am deeply grateful for you and the work that you're doing in the world. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you so much, and God bless.